Welcome to the Ansible Fest session, Why Unified Network Automation and Why Now? I'm Bob Laliberte, Principal Analyst for the Enterprise Strategy Group. And I'm going to be taking the next 20 minutes or so to discuss how we view the current environment, what that means for the network, and how automation can help. I'll be leveraging some research conducted with your peers to help you understand what other organizations are doing and why. And more specifically, what are the most common use cases for network automation? Over the last couple of years, we have seen organizations dramatically accelerate their digital transformation initiatives. And while that transformation includes people, process, and technology, the underlying technology has been the starting point to reinforce the changes to the process and how your employees interact and collaborate. ESG research cites that just over 9 out of 10 organizations are either beginning, in process, or have a mature digital transformation initiative. When we polled our IT decision makers in our annual Technology Spending Intention Survey, we found that the top goal of digital transformation efforts is to become more operationally efficient. In fact, that's been the #1 goal for the last 5 years. Holding steady in second spot is the ability to provide a better and differentiated customer experience. Now, depending on the industry you're in, such as healthcare or retail, you may find that that's the top or tied for the top spot. And it's important to realize that this customer experience could be both internal employees, partners, and the actual customers themselves. So let's put those digital transformations into context with the IT landscape. There have been a number of changes, with the most notable one being the shift to the cloud. Organizations are moving more applications and workloads to the public cloud. ESG research highlights the extent of this shift, with 95% of organizations now citing that they are currently using public cloud services, either infrastructure as a service or software as a service to some extent. Over 3/4 of respondents also state that they are using 2 or more public cloud services, and 80% claim they're running production applications there. So while these numbers indicate that cloud use is virtually ubiquitous, almost 2/3 of these respondents state that less than half of their applications are actually in the cloud, meaning that they still reside in private data centers. However, in order to deliver the desired positive experiences, all the applications need to be securely connected to the users that need them, regardless of where they're located. This alone is creating a complex network environment as organizations deploy network technologies to deliver direct internet access. Organizations are also realizing the benefits of analyzing data in real time or near real time at the edge. As a result, applications are also being distributed to remote and branch offices or sites. The data from your peers highlights that more than 9 out of 10 organizations report that edge computing has become a top 10 priority, creating more demand on the network team to provide connectivity to these distributed locations to ensure results of the analysis are shared in real time, and that all the data analyzed can be transported back to a central data lake or ocean. If that doesn't create enough network complexity, network operations teams also have to deal with hybrid work initiatives. Almost 2/3 of organizations report that hybrid work is something that's here to stay. So it shouldn't come as a surprise that in this highly distributed environment, that over half the organizations in our research have stated that their network environment is either more complex or significantly more complex than it was just 2 years ago. Modern network environments can be difficult to manage effectively, as there are often different network vendors present in each network domain. You might have Arista in the data center and Juniper in the campus, and perhaps Aruba in your branches. If you employ a dual vendor strategy, then you may have separate vendors in the same domain. Even if it is the same vendor, it's possible that the different technologies may require separate network tools, such as Cisco Nexus in the data center and Meraki in the campus or branch. The result is islands of information, management tools, and even skill sets. We know that having some form of unified management is important. ESG research highlights that 99% of organizations believe unified network management is important, with 27% stating it's critical. Given the cost of ripping and replacing to try and achieve that is not practical, especially with network devices remaining in use for up to a decade. Even if full unified management is not possible right now, there are areas that organizations can and should focus on. If we take a look at the challenges the network teams face in a few of these domains, we can see a pattern emerging. Taking a look across the data center, campus, WAN, and edge, it's clear that complexity is driving the need for network automation. In the data center, it's very clear that the top challenge is a lack of automation. And just behind that, it's the increasing complexity, especially as modern application environments are deployed. In the campus, we see complexity, the lack of automation, and the lack of AI ops are all included in the top 5 challenges. For the WAN, again, we see that lack of automation, lack or slow adoption of AI/ML technologies, and the time to provision new network connections as top 5 challenges. And for organizations deploying edge computing environments, the ability to centrally manage and automate areas of the deployment is in the top 4. If you are wondering about what tops the challenges for campus and WAN, they tend to struggle more with security and performance. However, this clearly paints the picture that organizations are struggling in multiple network domains to overcome network complexity and provide network automation. The good news is that if you are watching this, it's likely that you have already started or are about to start using network automation. ESG research indicates that 69% of organizations are currently using network automation to some degree, with more than a quarter using network automation extensively and another 41% using it in a more limited fashion. The positive news is that even those who are not currently using network automation plan to do so in the next 12 to 24 months. After seeing the challenges so clearly outlined, this data should validate your decision to adopt network automation solutions. We also ask organizations if they were leveraging AI/ML technologies to augment their automation solutions. This is still an emerging space, with 1/4 of respondents stating they use AI/ML extensively, and just over half reporting it's used sparingly in their network automation solutions. Almost a quarter say they don't use AI/ML at all yet. Why is having this intelligence going to be important? Well, frankly, it's because as the environments become more complex and distributed, and the amount of information collected from the network devices continue to grow, it will be increasingly difficult for network operations teams to effectively manage the network and keep the performance optimized. Organizations need to embrace network automation and intelligent solutions to ensure they can keep pace. And it's difficult to do that when you're performing repetitive manual tasks just to roll out a new patch or deploy new gear. So how are organizations leveraging network automation and intelligent solutions? Well, our research shows nearly a perfect maturity model, with 20% leaders, 60% followers, and 20% being more conservative. You can see that 20% of the organizations said that they want to get alerts, but still have full control over what's being done. Meaning the operations teams will analyze the data, define what needs to be done, and then go do it manually. And then 60%, well, 59%, are more open to assistance in identifying and providing a recommended solution, but still want to have control and manually implement the recommendation. And then it's that last segment, the 21%, that are looking to fully automate their solutions. They are looking to automatically detect, analyze, recommend, and apply changes as needed, with the key caveat that operations staff will still have the ability to review the outcomes. And that last part's really critical. Many operation teams that I've talked to are concerned that any level of automation is going to threaten their job security. However, I believe it's the opposite. The reality is that because of the increasing complexity of the environment, it will become increasingly difficult, if not impossible, to manage manually these environments through individual acts of IT heroism. You really need to be able to leverage that automation technology to help drive operational efficiencies and relieve the team of those repetitive manual tasks and get them onto the more strategic initiatives. So let's examine what use cases organizations are most often deploying automation to solve. Now, I know what gets the most attention. Everyone's talking about self-healing and self-optimizing, and I'm sure your management team has often asked you about that. But as our research indicates, those aren't necessarily the top areas that are getting automated. Actually, not even close. And it's not that those areas aren't important, but that network operations teams have to validate that the technology is effective in other areas before applying to such critical functions. ESG research outlines the areas that network operations teams are applying automation to. It includes IT asset inventory. It sounds simple enough, yet so many organizations don't even know it's in their environment. By applying automation to discover all the devices on the network, it will not only save time trying to manually discover the devices, but it can also alert operations teams to potential security risks. Very close behind that is the ability to automate lifecycle management. Now that you know where all your devices are, you can begin to automate the process of applying updates or security patches that don't take days and eliminate human errors. Because agility is so important for modern businesses, the ability to deploy new network devices will be critical to turning up new services or locations. Leveraging automation, organizations can create policies from a centralized location that are enforced across a highly distributed network environment. Next, organizations report that, in general, being able to automate any routine manual task is of great value to them. And now we get into some of the more sophisticated use cases of network automation, as organizations cite using automation to optimize network performance. Once they have validated the automation with the use cases above, they're going to be more comfortable with applying automation to this performance area. And while this can provide significant benefits, especially when ensuring positive experiences, it also requires the teams to be comfortable with the technology. So organizations should always deploy a closed-loop system that validates the changes actually optimized the performance. Enhancing security is another area that organizations are taking advantage of automation for. Given that it's a top challenge in multiple domains, it would make sense this is an area of concern as well, especially when an anomaly is detected and steps need to be taken to isolate devices or services. Troubleshooting or self-healing? This is absolutely an area that can provide significant benefit to organizations, but again, the operations teams need to be confident that the automation will indeed fix the problem and not make it worse. This is an area of automation that will require validation. The last use case cited was automation to ensure compliance. Now, depending on the industry, this could mean many different things, but the ability to automate and perhaps even more importantly, produce reports demonstrating compliance will be extremely helpful. The reality is that network environments are complex today and will only become more complex over time. Organizations have to deal with heterogeneous environments that span multiple different network domains, and trying to effectively manage these environments with an existing staff is like playing an endless game of whack-a-mole that requires highly skilled resources to be working with their hair constantly on fire. With IT resources scarce, organizations need to ensure that they invest in technology like network automation to enable their existing staff to more efficiently operate the network. Remember, that's the top goal of digital transformation initiatives and has been for the last 5 years. Leveraging network automation will provide a number of benefits, including greater agility for the business, being able to turn up new services and locations faster, deliver better experiences for both your customers and employees, less risk. Regaining visibility over the entire network environment ensures that all devices have up-to-date patches and functionality. Roll out new initiatives. Keep your skilled network resource working on the strategic initiatives and not those manual repetitive tasks. Optimize network performance. Given the distributed nature, it's going to be really important to ensure everything's working at peak performance. When thinking about network automation, be careful not to take a siloed approach that is only capable of automating a single domain or vendor. To remain agile, but still drive operational efficiencies, organizations can greatly benefit from a unified automation solution that's capable of automating all domains or virtually any network vendor. Lastly, if you haven't begun your journey with network automation, now would be a great time to start. If you have already started, make sure you continue to invest, to validate, and become more comfortable with the technology so you can continue to advance through the use cases and apply automation to more network domains. And don't forget to highlight your successes in terms that the business understands to get continued funding and support for network automation initiatives.